The views and opinions expressed by the guests of Sasquatch Experience do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the hosts, sponsors, or affiliates of the Sasquatch Experience. As always, listener discretion is advised.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. Looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Deal!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch Experience.
Why, hello.
Pork chop, we can't hear you. You may have muted yourself.
Well, that's okay.
Hey, how's that?
There you go.
There it
you
is.
go.
Much
Oh,
better.
I
Yes.
love it. It's not live unless something goes wrong. So
Exactly.
without
Yeah.
going into that again, guys, I'm Sean Forker. You know it's Monday night. You're listening to the Sasquatch Experience. Henry May, James Baker, Vance Nesbitt, Matt Arner, and our guest over in the big screen, Mr. Daniel Perez from the Bigfoot Times, here with us tonight. So I'm going to be a little brief at the beginning. I do want to give a special thank you to everyone who showed up to the Central PA Bigfoot and Cryptid Festival this weekend. We had a great audience for the presentations. I was the kickoff presenter. Matt was the after lunch presenter. We both had good crowds. It was a decent day. They're saying about 5,000 people showed up for the event. We didn't have 5,000 people listening to us speak, but we had a decent crowd for each one. So the first event of its kind, Gwen Purcell, great job. And the Sasquatch Experience team showed up well. We got a lot of people stopping by to talk about their sightings and areas of interest. It was time well spent, Matt. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. And that was my first time doing a presentation. And what the big thing was, you had the experiences, to talk about the history into it. Later on, we had some great speakers and we were able to stop it off with, being safe in the woods. And it really was, I think for the people that went there, it was a great experience.
Yeah, it definitely worth the attendance, the price of admission, which was free. It was $10 to hear the speakers. Mike Cook, Daniel Benoit, Maxim Furyk? Yeah, Furyk.
I think so, yes.
Butchered that name. Sorry, Maxim. And he spoke on the kind of paranormal UFO connection. So you had four flesh and blooders and a paranormal guy all on one panel, and then, of course, a round table afterwards. Matt and I's presentations will be up for you guys to view here as soon as I get them put together. James, you were there live and in color. You showed up and, provided a little entertainment for the folks. What did you think of the event?
The thing with it is that it was, for being the first time event, it was really good. And the fact is that they had a lot of vendors, but they also had people that you could just sit and talk to. That's the one thing I like about the festivals, is it's not just that you can buy chainsaw art and you can buy things like that, which are great. I love chainsaw art. But there's also just groups you could talk to. So like me and Sean talk to a variety of people, but it's always nice to connect with somebody else that goes, oh, you're seeing the same things in Ohio that we are in Pennsylvania, or you're seeing the same things in, that's why I like to go to a variety of different conferences, because you get different groups and you get different people's opinions, and you also get I guess with the networking.
Sure. I guess I'll start questions off with Daniel, and Matt, I'll let you introduce them as soon as I got to ask my question though, because we're gonna have Daniel Perez on the show today, and Daniel, you've been an attendee of conferences and symposiums over the years, probably longer than most of us. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, but I wasn't even born till '85, so I wasn't going to the early conferences. What do you think about conferences now? Do you think they've what do you think about the quantity? Do you think that is a benefit, or diminishes the research? And do you prefer the convention or symposium style?
Well, to my knowledge, the first conference I attended, Bigfoot-wise, was in June of 1989 in Pullman, Washington. And anyone who had to do with Bigfoot that was on the charts at that time was in attendance, including Grover Krantz, John Green, Renee DeHinden, myself, and others. But back then, back in the late 80s, it was strictly a non-commercial, more intellectual approach. I mean, there may have been a table spread out with a few trinkets for sale, but that was it. And then fast forward to 2023, it's completely shifted around. It's all about, I guess, the power of social media, the power of likes, and what you've got to sell at the conference. And so it's evolved to what it is on its own. And I mean, it's commercial enterprise, and I don't have a problem with that. This is the United States, and so if there's a buyer and seller, and someone wants to sell something and someone wants to buy something, I don't see anything wrong with that. But I think also too, maybe it has it's not as serious as it used to be, in my opinion. I mean, I can recall the Sasquatch symposiums held in Canada in the mid-1990s that was hosted and put on by Stephen Harvey. And I think there was a little more intellectualness to those meets than there is today. And today, I see it as like a social gatherings, and nothing wrong with that, because information is still exchanged. But I think it's not like it used to be. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's evolved to what it is on its own.
Sean, I think your microphone might be off.
Yeah, I think it's auto set. Is that better?
Okay, that's a lot better.
If it doesn't hear me, it shuts me off, which is not a bad thing, because we know I can talk. But our friend Todd Prescott has been putting out these videos on the Sasquatch Archives page of these old conferences. And folks, check them out, Sasquatch Archives on YouTube, because you'll see Daniel in all his glory talking with Renee DeHinden, which, I wish I would have got an opportunity to know him, because he seemed like quite the firecracker, and those are my kind of guys. And I just really wish I had the opportunity, but we get that opportunity to at least see some of the interaction and personalities that unfortunately are no longer with us. And there's definitely an opportunity for folks to go back. One of the things I said, I think at the round table, Matt, this weekend was, folks, what do you need to do when you start research? Go back and read books and watch these videos of these people that have been in here, and that'll answer half the questions you have before you get started. So, Matt, I'm going to throw it to you, and you can kick us off and introduce Daniel, and then we'll get going.
Well, I'll tell you what, Daniel, we're esteemed. You're an esteemed guest. We're very happy to have you here tonight. not only have you been involved with a lot of the literature that's come out, the books, the research, you also compile this with the Bigfoot Times as well. And the Bigfoot Times is an institution for anyone that is serious about the study of Bigfoot. Is there one particular moment when you're writing the Bigfoot Times that you thought was maybe one of those altering moments in the research of Bigfoot?
No, not really, but my whole motivation to start publishing a newsletter, and this is right around the time when the internet was starting to encroach on everyone's life.
Mm-hmm.
That we were still in the paper days where people had like a newspaper, a newsletter that was a physical thing, such as what you see right here.
Yes.
And so Ray Crow was publishing, Don Keating was publishing, Connie Cameron was publishing the Bigfoot Co-op, and they were all print on paper, mailed to people via the United States Postal Service. And I was subscribing to all of those newsletters, and I was just devouring all the information. And I thought to myself that maybe some of these editors of the newsletters were not as careful as they could or should be with the information they were producing and putting out to an audience. And right around that time, I guess the laptop computer was coming out.
Yep.
And I dashed down to the Office Depot or whatever they call it, and I was kind of putting things together in my head, and I said, well, I was thinking about publishing a newsletter myself because I had published one before using a manual Smith Corona typewriter, I guess, and that was back when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And so with the laptop computer, I thought to myself, well, I think I'm going to do it again and start publishing a new edition of the Bigfoot Times newsletter. And I was able to launch the first edition in January of 1998. Oh. And that was 25 years ago, and it's still going. And I know Henry May has been on board for decades. So yeah, absolutely. We've got readers all over the world now, and I'm very pleased. And the fact that it's lived or survived for 2.5 decades, now that we've entered the digital age and we have a paper newsletter that's mailed out to subscribers, at least in my mind, tells me that I'm doing a good job.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I look forward when you put that post out with just the top. That means, hey, in about 3 days, I'm getting that newsletter. So it really, the information in there is outstanding. Your coverage of the recent events as well as your book reviews. And that's something I'd like to actually kind of defer to Henry. Henry, do you have any questions for Daniel?
Well, I was wondering, speaking of books, I was wondering about your pending book project on the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Oh.
For sure, that will be out in 2024. It's because I still work full-time, and oftentimes I'm working out of town. It turns it into a logistics nightmare. But essentially, the book is complete now. I would say we're probably closer to 90%, and now it's a matter of getting everything together, where the picture should be and where the text should be. And the format of this book is going to be similar to John Green's book. In fact, it's going to be the same format. I guess 8.5. John Green's early books, the booklets that were 8.5 by 17, I believe. And I guess they call that tabloid, the type. And so that's what it's going to have the look and feel of. And without a doubt, it will be there in 2024. And I'm not procrastinating. It's not the only thing on my plate, because like I said, I still work full time, and so that takes a lot of time out of my schedule. And in fact, sometimes I think to myself, I'm lucky to be able to put out the Bigfoot Times newsletter on a timely monthly basis. Because now we have close to about 875 members worldwide. And that number goes up and goes down based on people dropping off and people signing up. And so you can just imagine having to get that newsletter printed and then folded, stuffed in an envelope, and then putting the stickers on for all the members and the stamps and getting it out. So that in itself takes at least 2 days, literally.
Wow. Sean, do you have anything to add? Oh, it looks like Sean's microphone's out.
I would like to say thank you for doing that, because that is it's a great source that I've heard. I'll have to get more on that because I didn't act. But it's also a really big labor on your end, and thank you for taking the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a labor of love, so it's not too much work to do, especially when you love what you're doing. So I have no problem producing it because I read the newsletter myself to get information. I read back issues to revitalize my information about what's happened in the past so I could produce another newsletter. And so I'm reading some of my own back issues so we could do coverage in the September Bigfoot Times on the late Peter Byrne, who just passed in late July.
Right.
And he is the last of the four horsemen in Bigfooting, last of a generation, not first generation of Bigfooters. And it just seems like those four individuals, probably more than most other people, with the exception of perhaps Roger Patterson, are going to be some of the most famous Bigfooters that have ever lived. It's almost like you could talk about the history of baseball, but somehow Babe Ruth in any conversation always seems to come up. So those four individuals will always pop up in conversations about the serious study of Bigfoot.
No, that's a good point. I would like to add something to that. So in your opinion, now that the four horsemen have all passed, and Godspeed to all four of them, no matter what you think of them, in your opinion, who do you see as the next up and coming?
Wow, I would say there's probably three people and perhaps one in Australia. Here in North America, I would say possibly Shane Carpenter, Cliff Barackman, and in Canada, Tom Steenberg, even though Tom Steenberg is older than me. And then in Australia, Dean Harrison, who's got a website, I guess it's the Australian Yowie Research or whatever. But I spoke with him on the phone in 2000 when I was in Australia myself. He was active then, and he's still active. And he's really doing a pretty good job, in my view. But it's hard to track because he's a continent away. But you asked the question, so I answered as best I can.
No, and that's a good list of people right there. Barackman, great guy. I mean, seriously, he's no BS to anybody. He just kind of lays it out there, and you know, I know Tom as well. These guys will just lay it out there as they see it and give you whatever the fact is to how they interpret it, and then you can put together whatever you think might be factual. But I think they're very reasonable people.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And you know, I know Cliff is past 50. Shane Carpenter is probably late 40s or mid 40s, and Steenberg is about 62. So age is not so much as a factor, but it's something that you kind of keep in mind. Like with Peter Byrne, you check out at age 97, you the days of actually, I mean, if you were to make a bet, like at age 97, could Peter Burns still find a Bigfoot? And most bets would be against him. But if he were like 57, the bets would be on him. Even though it didn't materialize, that's how the betting would go, in my opinion.
Right. No, that's a really good point. I love hearing these, at different points, even though I think of them anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. With all the time I've seen you with the Four Horsemen, Renee DeHinden, is there anything that really sticks out about him when you've gone to the conferences, you've done went to his symposiums, when you may have been just talking to him? Is there something that we may not necessarily know, just in the general Bigfoot community about his personality, or about the kind of person he was?
His personality ran both hot and cold. It just depended on the circumstance. He didn't like Eric Beckford because he thought Eric Beckford was full of it.
Yeah.
He had a mostly bad relationship with Peter Burns, but later I guess he patched up. But at the time he died in April of 2001, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he didn't have too many good things to say about Peter Burns, but he loved to smoke his pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He loved to make jokes about people, like, or similar to Donald Trump, he would name people with different names, like Beckford would be called Beckford. Bob Titmus, the late Bob Titmus, he used to call Titmouse. And he had a few other names for very well-known Bigfooters. But he ran hot and cold. But what was interesting about him is he was an individual that didn't have post-high school education, that for the longest time in his life he recycled the lead shot at the Vancouver Gun Club. And you wouldn't think that for a guy as simple as him that he was capable of all this beautiful work as it applies to the PG film, the Patterson-Gimlin film, and his study and research on it. And I remember asking Bill Munns, who did a lot of work on the PG film, I said, so what do you think about Renee DeHinden's work on the film? And he said something like unbelievable. And I kind of mentioned to him, because I don't think he knew what his occupation was. And I said that, that he salvaged lead shot at a gun club for the majority of his career. And he kind of looked at me like I never knew that. And so that was kind of you never know where the good work is going to come from. Oftentimes from the most promising areas, you get some of the best work. And that was Renee DeHinden. And like I said, he loved to smoke that pipe. And it's actually a pretty good smelling pipe, if you know what I mean.
Yep, absolutely. James, I think you're up next.
So since you've been in the field so long, with the current technology and the current connections, do you think that it's easier for you to look at evidence and to collect more information, for what you need than it was before? I know, like you said in the beginning, it was more science and like you had a lot of connections, but it was like now that you have the ability to basically talk to anybody you'd wish to, do you think you get more? Do you think it's easier getting the information, or do you think there's so much out there that it's hard to break down what's good and bad?
It's easier, and it's also cheaper than it was, say, 20 years ago. Now, as for good and bad information, that's in the eye of the beholder. I only tend to look at certain types of things, like what I would call sightings, where there's a witness behind it, or we know the name of, or footprints, where we have some good images of them. When I say easier and cheaper, I mean, like 20 years ago, if I were to get a hold of someone in Australia, I had to write a letter. And today, I can get on the phone with WhatsApp and call them directly, and it doesn't cost me anything. And the same here in the United States. I was just on the phone with a man in Florida who wanted to talk to me about red flags on the Patterson-Gimlin film. And I said, sure, give me a shout. I'm here in the office, my home office. And so he called me, and I guess I called him back or something like that. But again, that phone call didn't come with a cost. 20 years ago, I've been on the phone about an hour, there would be significant long-distance billing on that phone call. So it's easier and cheaper. And again, you have to have a certain discretion in the terms like, you know, you probably won't go to a used car lot and buy a car from a used car salesman with no warranty or no guarantee or something like that. It just does not seem like a good buy. So if you're smart, you stay away from those types of vehicles, and you'd rather go to a new car lot where there's new vehicles where you know what you're getting. And the same thing with the Bigfoot evidence that's out there. I mean, you could jump on YouTube and see within any given week, maybe 20 new Bigfoot videos that some anonymous individual has shot. And I don't even bother. It's just like, if there's not a name behind the video and a specific location, I'm not really too interested.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. When you get those little snippet clips from random people, like my brother sent me a clip of what was supposed to be either a Yowie or an alien or something, and he said, "Oh, this happened on a 4 Mile drive up near where I live." And I said, "Well, that's weird because I got the same clip from 6 other people, and one lives in Florida, one lives in Nevada, one lives in whatever, and they're all like saying, 'Oh yeah, this was 3 blocks from my house.'" I'm like, "Where do you live? Springfield?" You know?
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, so I think we're at the top of the hour, and Vance, you're ready for the news?
We are good for the news. You're listening to the Sasquatch Experience with our special guest, Daniel Perez, and we'll take the news.
All right.
News team, assemble!
Ah, yes, it is Monday night, half hour into the show of the Sasquatch Experience, and now it's time for the Bigfoot Bullhorn. I hope you're all having a good Monday night, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I know our bestie over there, Sean, did a remarkable job, as he was talking about earlier, speaking in front of crowds of thousands regarding Bigfoot. But into the news, this story might sound a little bit familiar, but we've just kind of updated it. Back in June, out of Rochester, New Hampshire. The Rochester, New Hampshire Police Department has received several reports of Bigfoot sightings in the downtown area. Fearing the worst, concerned citizens and business owners are on the lookout for the legendary cryptid. Chris Harrelson, Profile Bank, says he became a believer when a Bigfoot allegedly approached one of the bank's drive-through teller windows. He's quoted as saying, "I heard about Bigfoot sightings last summer, but I never thought I'd see one in the open like that," said Harrelson. "I didn't know whether to run or hide or help him open a savings account." Officer Brandon Kimbrough, Rochester's community engagement officer, is encouraging residents to stay calm and keep their distance. "Until we make contact, we want everyone to stay safe. Our department will do everything we can to protect life and property," said Kimbrough. "If you see a Bigfoot, do not approach it. Please be careful out there." Now, this guy might sound familiar to you. Todd Raddick, owner of Skeleton Records, insists he saw a Bigfoot watering flowers around Parson Main Monument in Central Square. He's quoted as saying, "I've never seen anything like it. I looked down for a second to grab my camera and he was gone. It all happened so fast." This is the same guy that said Bigfoot was perusing his record collection in his record store and he looked down to grab a camera and it was gone. Volunteers with Rochester Main Street are taking action to respond to the concerns of the community members. Board President Jeff Bisson says the organization created a website to record Bigfoot sightings and track their whereabouts. "We believe there is more than one Bigfoot in Rochester," said Bisson. "We need help tracking this mysterious herd. It's our hope that people will find them and photograph them and help Rochester Main Street prove that they exist once and for all. The organization is offering prizes for anyone brave enough to locate them all. We believe they're everywhere," Bisson continued. "We need your help to locate and document them. Rochester Main Street is raffling off $25 gift cards to downtown businesses of your choice if you're lucky enough to be selected. Sean, get Lauren Coleman on the phone. He's not that far from Rochester." Let's just put a big smile on this whole story. I think it's good city promotion for Rochester and for tourists that come into the area. Hey, it may bring one or two youngins into the whole Sasquatchery community, and maybe that'll be the birthplace of new researchers. When we come back, a couple of announcements to be made. Stick around.
You're listening to the Sasquatch Experience.
Are you low on Bigfoot wares and apparel? Visit gotknockers.org to fill that void. Got Knockers has everything from soaps, plushies, shirts, hoodies, jewelry, and so much more. Inspired by a sighting of Bigfoot himself, Got Knockers was born. Visit gotknockers.org. Also, head on over to Facebook to Got Knockers community page, where you will find the best and brightest in the world of Sasquatchery. Got Knockers, brought to you by the mysterious tree knocker in the dead of night. gotknockers.org. And now, what the Bigfoot Bullhorn is fully known for, its announcement. Bigfoot and Brews 2. A day filled with knowledgeable speakers in the field of Bigfoot Sasquatch research held at the atmospheric Sister Lakes Brewing Company. Sister Lakes Brewing Company is located at 92500 County Road 690 in Dowagiac, Michigan. 49047 is the zip code. Now, Bigfoot and Brews is an event in honor of recognition of the Dewey Lake Sister Lakes monster sightings of 1964. This day-long event will feature nationally known speakers, presentations, and vendors all on site to provide attendees with information on many aspects of these elusive beings. This year's speakers include Robert Kreider and Stacy Brown Jr. There is an optional add-on for a VP dinner with both speakers and a screening of Brown's newest video project taking place on Friday, September 8th, but the time is yet to be determined. Buy your tickets early and stay for the day. This event is held outdoors under the tented structure at the Sister Lakes Brewing Company in Dowagiac, Michigan. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Bigfoot Bullhorn exclusively on the Sasquatch Experience. And until next time, keep your toes in the mud.
All right, we're back. And so, you know what, Daniel, I wanted to ask you, and I figured I'd wait till this half of the show here. Can you tell us a little about the research that you've done out at Bluff Creek?
Yeah, I've been to Bluff Creek numerous times, and I guess you're specifically talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film site.
Yes.
The last big trip I made with the Bluff Creek project, what we were trying to do, and I had this discussion with the man that called from Florida, is when Roger Patterson shot that film, according to Renee DeHinden, the camera was equipped with a 25 millimeter lens.
Okay.
And he used a photographic formula to determine how tall the subject is. On provision, you know, the distance between the camera and the subject, and also the focal length of the camera. And in this case, it was 25 millimeters. And so we went there on our last trip as a group to try to nail that down. And between us, we had the 15 millimeter lens, the 20 millimeter lens, and the 25 millimeter lens. And to my recollection, this was all posted in the 2021, I think the November 2021 edition of the Bigfoot Times, because we have a lot of original reporting there. But it seemed to be that the best fit for the subject in the film was the 20 millimeter lens. And the way we were able to go about doing that is that you can still see today in 2021 or 2023, that if you could imagine taking a frame of the film, a full frame, and just going to the film site and just putting it right in front of yourself, and you look to the left and you could see the edge of the frame, and in real life, when you're at the film site, you could see where the edge is based on the trees in the background, and the same thing with the right. And so we were able to determine that with high precision. And Rowdy Kelly, who was with us at the time, he put these high intensity lights at those locations. So by that, we marked the quote unquote field goals of the left side of the frame and the right side. And we pretty much knew where Patty was, the subject in the film, and we pretty much backed the camera out where it needed to be when Roger was taking that film. In terms of that, the distance-wise, we may have been a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, not certain on that aspect, but it seemed to be that the 20 millimeter lens seemed to be a better fit. So that, of course, it changes nothing, but it changes everything in terms of the height of the subject. And like I spoke with a guy, the critic from Florida, about, I wish I could remember his name right now, but it escapes me. But it changes the height of the subject. And I'm not exactly, I've crunched some numbers and I'm saying, well, that doesn't seem to be right. And so I'm saying, well, these other factors that I'm not incorporating into the equation to try to come out with a height of the subject to see if we can get that proper answer. But as I speak right now, based on research, it seems like the 20 millimeter lens is the more suitable for what was used, although two things are apparent. Is from Renee DeHinden's early research, which is actually more vital and probably more important, he was able to determine, based on probably going to Shepard's camera shop and talking with Roger when he was still living, that it was a 25 millimeter lens equipped on the camera. And I know that Renee went to Shepard's camera shop and asked about it. And later on, Peter Byrne, when he was funded, wrote some letters to the police department there in Yakima, Washington, about the camera that Roger rented and didn't pay for. And he eventually had to get hauled in front of a courtroom to make an appearance about this matter. This was shortly after the film was shot. And so a police report was generated, and Peter Byrne was able to get some information. And from that information, the person who responded to him stated that the camera, the rental camera that Roger used, was in fact identified, and it was equipped with a 25 millimeter lens.
Okay.
And mind you, it was a Kodak K100 camera, not the turret model. So if it was a turret model, just to give you a crash course, then you have 6 lenses. That means you have three lenses to see things and 3 lenses to film. But with the fixed lens, there's only 1 viewing lens and 1 filming lens.
Okay.
And that was go ahead.
Wow, that's
So it's based on the police report and Renee Hinden and Burns' involvement, it seemed like it was a 25 millimeter lens. But based on experimentation at the film site as late as October of 2021, the best fit seemed to be that the 20 millimeter lens seemed to be the best fit for the film.
Have you, when you've been out, you've spent a lot of time in Bluff Creek, if I'm not mistaken. I was reading about Letterman's book with the on Bluff Creek, which is absolutely amazing. But did you ever have any experiences out there when you were going out there to do this research and to just try to get this place settled in for the exact spot? Did you ever have any sort of encounters, any sort of weird things happen out there?
No, nothing that I could report that's Bigfoot-wise. I was there once just with my dog, and I think that was October of 2014. And when we were headed upstream, we saw, well, I saw, I'm assuming my dog did too, a huge black bear that was down there at the creek. It didn't see me. And I grabbed the collar on my dog because I didn't want him to go after it because it wouldn't have been a massive animal.
Oh, yeah.
There was a huge black bear, and it's interesting because that bear was not aware of me viewing it. It was there at the creek, went up the mountainside. I've seen plenty of deer there, and back in probably 2004 on another trip, we saw myself and Richard Henry, who was on the film site in November of '67. We saw mountain lion tracks, and I didn't even bother to take a picture of them. I don't know why, but what was interesting is that I personally have never seen a mountain lion in the woods. I've never seen a mountain lion, but that was the first time I saw tracks.
Yep.
And a friend of mine by the name of David Hiltz was in that area years ago, back in the late 80s. And not only did he see a mountain lion, but he saw the two cubs that was with it. And that's just the way things go. It's just like, I've never seen a lion in the woods, and here he sees three of them, the mother and the two cubs. So when people say, why can't you see a Bigfoot or something? It's just the way where things are placed in the woods at certain times. You have to be in the right place at the right time. And that's
Yep, absolutely. Henry, you have a question? Henry?
Well, I just wanted to ask Daniel. I know that Daniel, hello?
We hear you loud and clear.
Muted?
Nope. We hear you loud and clear, Henry.
Well, I was just going to ask Daniel. I know that he's a collector of some of the older books. I know you got a pretty big collection. You probably got a bigger collection than me. What is your favorite classic book?
My favorite classic book is Ivan Sanderson's Abominable Snowman, Legend Come to Life, that was published in 1961. And when I ranked the top 10 books in Bigfooting, at least in my opinion, and Lauren Coleman's opinion, is that Ivan Sanderson's book comes out on top. And so in 1961, without the aid of a personal computer or anything, he was able to produce this mammoth book. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Dr. Jeff Meldrum probably points in that direction too, because what he did in '61, people really can't even match today. I mean, it was a voluminous book. That's my favorite book. Think about it. There was no internet at the time, and he was able to write this book over 500 pages long or thereabouts with all this information, not just on Bigfoot, but all the unknown upright, hairy, walking critters worldwide. It was a worldwide survey. And so to have done that in 1961, he really set the bar really high. And so I was able to have my own personal copy of that book, and I posted on Facebook, extensively autographed by some of the famous Bigfooters at the time, including Dr. Jeff Meldrum, John Green, and just about anyone that has been well known in the community. And so, yeah, that is my all-time #1 favorite book. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't refer to that book as much as they should be, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, we got a question that came in through the chat from Astro, and for some reason, his question is the same thing that I had in the back of my mind on the Patterson camera that he used, that it had turret lenses on it instead of one fixed lens. Can you clarify that? Did it have adjustable where you can turn the lenses, 4 different lenses on there and change it, or it was just one fixed lens?
It was one fixed lens.
Okay.
There was a viewing lens and a lens a filming lens. What they call the fixed lens model. It was not the turret model.
Okay. Yeah, for some period of time, I always thought it had 4 multi-turret lenses on there. I don't know what gave me that whole aspect and thought process, but it was interesting that somebody else brought that up too.
James, or Daniel, what do you think about Bigfoot on the East Coast here in Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, Maine, Michigan? With all your experience in the Pacific Northwest and California, do you really see that, that there's almost as much definitive proof out here, or sighting-wise, in the eastern part of the United States?
Well, I was in Pennsylvania in 1996 and in Ohio for about 6 months, maybe 5 months in 1996 as well. And yes, I think the evidence is just as compelling, if not more compelling, than the West Coast Bigfoot situation. And what made that crystal clear was a book that was called Bigfoot on the East Coast, written by the late Rick Berry, and which is a really hard book to get a hold of, by the way. Mm-hmm. He cataloged Bigfoot reports on the East Coast in 1991, I believe. He had a cataloging of more than what John Green was able to accumulate when he wrote his book in 1978. But I do find the evidence in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and those are the areas that states I've been to. There's no question in my mind we have good reports similar to what we have on the Pacific Northwest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. James, do you have any questions?
There was another question in the chat. Did we go through that one too? Let me see. Jamie King wanted to know: do you feel when you did when you were out there investigating in the same places as Patterson Gimlin, did you do it at the same time of year as the original and weather and conditions?
Yes. Well, most of the times I've been to the PG film site has been in October to get light for light, especially the lighting conditions. And one thing that's interesting about October, whether you're going in the rain, whether it's raining or the sun is up, is that you'll notice if you're there at about 1:30 in the afternoon, standing at the film site, the sun is almost straight above your head. And so it doesn't cast shadow, it illuminates the whole film site. And that is very interesting because as Patty walks, she does not cast a shadow. So that would indicate the timing of the day was about what Roger Patterson said, and that you could visualize yourself having a lamp above your head, and that when you see Patty in motion for the first frame, there's no shadow. And that indicates, again, that the sun was almost directly above. And so if you go there at 1:30 in the afternoon on October 20th of any year, that sun is sitting almost straight above your head.
That's awesome. That is really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
We had somebody else ask a question too, Daniel, where they can find a link and subscribe to the Bigfoot Times.
Well, it's easy. Just go to bigfoottimes.net and you can get a membership to the newsletter.
Perfect.
And I guarantee you, we've been around for 25 years. We're not going to take your nickel and run.
All right.
Yeah, right.
So with the top 10 list that you have for your books, I just want to, and I'm posting this out to both Daniel and Henry. Do you guys both have a similar volume of books that you have for your top 10? Or they, Daniel, if you could just kind of run through, what you would consider your top 10, and Henry, if you could do yours as well.
Well, let me go first. Let me just tell you my top 3.
Okay.
I'm going from memory, not looking at my website. Number 1 would be Ivan Sanderson's Abominable Snowman Legend Comes to Life. Number 2, John Green, 1978. I'm blanking on the title, but his Sasquatch book from 1978.
Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us.
The Apes Among Us.
Yep.
And number 3, I believe, would be Vladimir Markotik's yellow book that I'm blanking on the title again.
Sasquatch and Other Unknown Hominoids.
There you go.
And Henry for the win.
Number four, I believe, would be Dr. Jeff Meldrum's book that was published in 2006. I guess it's called Bigfoot Sasquatch Science or something like that.
Yep.
Now, I'll let Henry talk on that point.
Okay. Go ahead, Henry.
Okay, I think, gosh, top 10, I don't know, but top 5 would be number 1, Sasquatch The Apes Among Us. Number 2, the Ivan Sanderson book. Number 3 is Jeff Meldrum's book. Number 4 is Peter Burns' book. And number 5 would be Grover Krantz, Bigfoot Sasquatch Evidence.
All right. Well, you know what? That kind of leads me to the next question here, Daniel. In your opinion, what's the defining evidence that we need to prove that Bigfoot is real?
I interviewed Tom Steinberg last month in the Bigfoot Times newsletter.
Yep.
And not only is it his opinion, but all of his late colleagues as well, is that what's needed as a piece of evidence is a substantial piece of the body or body itself, and pretty much nothing to do. I'm 100% confident eDNA will not do it. Blood samples will not do it. Hair will not do it. A good picture, as clear as whatever, is not going to do it, because anyone can say it's fake, but you can't fake a body. And so the body of Sasquatch is what is going to prove that this species that we call Bigfoot or Sasquatch is here in North America. Nothing else, in my opinion.
Yep. Anything to add, Vance? James?
No, I guess my question would be, are you, because there's that controversial question that goes back and forth in Sasquatchery, kill or no kill? So, Daniel, what's your opinion? Kill or no kill?
I have no opinion on it, because here's the point, is that there's people that hunt deer in the United States with deer tags and licenses, but there's also poachers out there too. So it's just like, even if you take an opinion whether we should kill one or not, that's not going to be a deciding factor to someone out there hunting one. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Even though you have an opinion, don't kill one, that's not going to stop a hunter trying to do just that.
Right.
Yep.
So what's the point of having an argument? And then for the business of, it often comes up in modern day Bigfooting, is the question of flesh and blood or
Yep.
interdimensional, extra dimensional, or whatever they call it. It's just like if a body of a Sasquatch is produced, then we'll know that it was, after all, flesh and blood.
Yep.
We kind of echoed from that eDNA portion, Matt, when we had the round table from the weekend. Daniel, you and I share the same sentiments on the eDNA. It's really not going to prove anything, I don't think. We do need that body. Everybody dropped back to that consensus. And though we have these great new technologies and the abilities, there's still nothing that's going to satisfy people than a big substantial piece of a Sasquatch. And then it goes to what you just said, and Matt, I said it on Saturday morning. You know, we talk about, you know, the paranormal question or whatever is irrelevant. You know, whatever comes down to what this specimen shows us to be, once it's produced, will answer the question. And I just think so much time, Daniel, is spent on the, you know, kind of like you said, the kill, no kill. I myself have also adopted that. What's it matter? Someone's going to do it anyhow. It might not be me. I might not be the one who's going to bag it, and hopefully it's that 98-year-old grandma driving back from bingo that hits it with her station wagon. So it is done in a little bit more of an accidental way, but we're still hoping one gets bagged somehow. So really, is it humanely killed or accidentally killed, or, you know, just so many
happen in West Virginia.
Yeah, they'll explode in West Virginia. Daniel, I apologize. I didn't get to ask you so many questions because you had some technical difficulties on my end. But, you know, they asked you some good questions about the substantial book. What do you want to be left with to your contributions in the field when the day comes and it's time for us to talk about Daniel Perez? What do you want folks to hope that you left them with?
Well, I'm 60 years old now, so once I eventually die, all my files, which are the largest in the world, will be donated to Stanford. So another generation will have access to all of this original information, some of the letters from some of the first generation Bigfooters, and access to some extremely rare autographed books. And as far as I know, I have the largest private library on the subject as well. And so, unlike Peter Byrne, I take no criticism about him, but his estate, when it comes to his Bigfoot files, the physical files, there's not much to offer to the community because some of it was bought by Todd Neese. Many of his slides were either stolen or lost from his van. And so what goes to the next generation of Bigfooters from this world famous Bigfooters is essentially nothing. And so maybe 50 years down the road when I'm gone, is that Stanford University will have this repository of information, and the people that are alive then will say, like, wow, this guy was looking to the future, and that will be my legacy. They'll say, like, not only do we remember Daniel Perez, but look what he did with what he left behind.
All right. Well, I think Sean's audio went out again, but he's sitting there. He's a little upset about that. So, anyways, Vance, Henry, James, is there anything else for Daniel?
I wanted to thank you for coming on, and I wanted to. I appreciate, because in this last hour I've learned a few things about the PG film that I don't think a lot of us knew about, how the camera worked, and about the sun setting in October. So I'd like to thank you, because now that when I look at that footage, I always thought it was a tri-lens that you could switch on and different things like that. I didn't realize that, and that actually gives me a better idea of what, when you look at the footage, how you experience it, if that helps.
Mm-hmm. True. And I would say, Daniel, a benefit of doing the Sasquatch experience, me personally, get to meet really cool people in this field. So thank you so much for participating with the Sasquatch Experience. Now I get to tell my social circle, yeah, I got to talk to Daniel Perez, and they'll be like, wow, that's awesome. And it's a privilege for me personally, but it is a privilege for all of us at the Sasquatch Experience. So thank you so much for doing this with us.
And for those people who go to conferences, I will be in September at the Ozark Bigfoot Conference in Missouri. We'll be giving a talk
Nice.
next month.
Cool.
All right.
We'll enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean wanted to say he wanted to thank you for being thoughtful to preserve your legacy. And answering, it was a semi-morbid question, but it was a well done question there. So, thank you so much for having that donation to Stanford University. I think that's amazing, and it's not us; it's going to be the future generation of Bigfooters that are going to be so grateful for what you've done. And we're grateful for what you're doing right now. And but that future generation are really going to they're going to see your works, they're going to see your collection that you have, and hopefully you'll spurn some discovery. So that's something that Sean wanted to say. Henry, do you have anything to add? Henry? All right.
Well, just want to thank you. Want to thank you for coming on, Daniel. It's really great to talk to you again, and hope we can do this again, because there's got to be a part 2.
Absolutely. We got to have a second part with Sean having his full microphone. So, yeah.
I would do another interview with me that's exclusively on the Patterson Gibbon himself.
That would be great.
Sean is giving the big thumbs up on that. So, and again, I know for all of us, we'd love to. I haven't been out to the site. I know I'm definitely planning on it, and you know, it's something that we all look forward to doing. And it's the work that you have done, Stephen Strufert, Linderman. All these researchers that really put Bluff Creek, you know, and made it, you know, so that we know that spot. Again, we salute you for that, and it's going to be something that, again, you know, when we come out there, we'll be able to, you know, we'll be able to enjoy it because of, you know, the work that you guys have done. So, again, I can't thank you guys enough. So. Yep. So, Vance, do you have anything else to take us out in?
Again, it was the big thank you, and I actually learned stuff out of this. So, anytime we do a Sasquatch Experience and I learn something, chalk that up for a benefit for me. So, again, thank you so much. Once again, where can people go and find you and Bigfoot Times?
BigfootTimes.net.
Very good. We've all got that written down. Everyone subscribe, and we're going to wrap it up. Henry, take us out with those famous words, my friend.
Henry?
He could.
Yes.
Yeah, take us out with those famous words.
All right. And I think Henry can't hear us, but
well,
anyways.
That's okay. I'll take us out. Y'all be good or be good at it.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review wherever this podcast is consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook or email us, squatchexperience@gmail.com. Keep on squatching.